Hello, everybody. We're sat down here with Mr. Tom Ollendorff, who's here in Kokkola playing the ELive Jazz Happening Festival. He played with his trio last night, a fantastic show, and today we've had the opportunity to do this stream with him. And have a little chat with Tom here. So how are you doing?
I'm great. Yeah, I've had a wonderful time. Last 3 days in Finland's been really, really special and fantastic. It's my second time here and played a show with my trio on Sunday night in Helsinki. And then, as you said, came up here on Monday to play for you. And then we've just done this stream where I played some solo and played duo with you guys, which was really fun. So I've been having the best time and so happy to be back in Finland.
Great. And you've been doing your tour, the open house record tour across Europe.
Yeah.
And right before that you were in Asia.
Yeah,
doing it with another trio.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
So how has that been?
It's been fantastic, yeah, it's been wonderful. And the open house CD came out in May 2023, so about a year and a half ago, just under a year and a half ago. And, you know, I've been touring the music a lot since then. As you said, I just did 2 weeks in Asia, in China, Japan and Taiwan. And then now I've had 2 weeks with a mixture of trio and quartet. And so the music's constantly evolving, and you know, I'm lucky to be been touring with really wonderful musicians who turn the music into something different. They all make the music bigger, you know. Yeah. And it's also been great because, you know, I'm just planning the next record now, and so there's kind of 3 or 4 new pieces which I'm going to be recording, which I've slowly been introducing to the set, and slowly kind of, you know, moving some of the other pieces out, you know. So it's been wonderful. It's been just fantastic, and I've loved every minute of it. And yeah, I've been so, as I said before, lucky to play with really wonderful musicians. So it's been tiring and busy, but really fantastic.
Good to hear. So how have you liked Finland so far? You've been in Scandinavia and Finland. How do you find it different to be in Finland than Asia, for example?
Well, there's a few obvious things. The first is that it's very cold. And yeah, I think in Asia, I mean, I think there's only maybe one day where it was under 30 degrees. Yeah. It's incredibly humid. And, but I mean, I think in some ways, wherever you go, there are a lot of things which are the same.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. So there's some, you know, wherever you go, I think, you know, in general anyway, and it's definitely been like that in Finland, you meet wonderful people, you know, just like you guys, doing such a wonderful job promoting jazz, and wonderful musicians. And so there's a lot of similarities, you know. There's, as I said, there's some obvious differences. The weather, I'd never met a reindeer before today, so I was very happy to meet some really, really cute reindeer. And also, I think, you know, Finland is a country, I don't know what's the population, 5 or 6 million, something like that, or a bit more. Okay, so, you know, most of the cities we played in China or Japan, you know, Taiwan, they're all cities with tens of millions of people. I think there was only one city we played in with less than 10 million people. Definitely in China. I think in Taipei maybe has a bit less than that, but these are huge, huge places, you know. So I guess there's a different, the audience is different in some senses. But in some ways, then, as I said, the things I notice more is about how much things are the same, you know. And fun. So, as I said, such kind people are enthusiastic about this crazy music we play, and the differences are just small things, you know. It's my second time in Finland, and I loved the last time, and I thought the audiences were great, and the landscape is great, and you know, it's actually just, it's so interesting how really people are kind of the same everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just been so nice to be back here, and I hope it's not long before I come again.
Yeah, we hope to have you soon again.
Fantastic, yeah.
And if we talk about your background a little bit, so how and where did it all start? What was your first music experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I guess sometimes when you do an interview, people ask that question. It's always really hard to work out what the beginning moment is. You know, for me, I think the earliest moments I really remember, I remember being around 11 or 12, and there's a famous street in London called Denmark Street, where
Yeah.
there's loads of guitar shops, and it's still a cool place. I think when I was a kid, when I was kind of 11, so I think my maths isn't so good, but around kind of 2003 or 4. I think it was better back then. Now when I go there, isn't actually sadly not so many guitar shops as there were. But I just went with my mum and she bought me a guitar, and I really remember the bug really biting when I started secondary school, or when I moved to a different school when I was about 13 or 14, and there was a guy at the school who he knew like all the Red Hot Chili Peppers songs, and I got really, really obsessed with that band. And that was, I think, the first time I really learned music in the way, like, which I guess I still learn it now, which is you kind of get obsessed, And I think I always felt, even before I played guitar, like music was something that could move me, I could be emotional about music. So I guess there was something inside me which was there. Yeah, I have various memories of like listening to Benjamin Britten. My parents had a Benjamin Britten CD. My parents both love music, so that really helps, And yeah, and then I remember this Coldplay CD, and then a Red Hot Chili Pepper CD, and a whole really kind of quite big variation of music. But I remember I could always really feel something. Music could make me feel something. But it wasn't until I was probably a little, like maybe 13 or 14, that I really started, applying myself to learn guitar. And then when I was 18, I met this great guitar player who sadly is no longer alive, but called Guy Harrop, and he was just playing in a like kind of wine bar near where at the time my parents were living in a city or town called Bath, and I was just like, oh my god, what are all these chords? What are all these scales? Because I guess I'd been more from the kind of rock background, and a bit fusion as well, but he had all these voicings and all this language, I guess, that I didn't really sounded interesting, but I didn't know what it was. So he just very sweet guy and great guitar player, and he gave me a plectrum like this exact plectrum, and I've had it ever since. Like, this is not the same one, but I've only ever used this plectrum ever since. I've just used to it, and he got me really into George Benson, and he helped me learn some jazz standards, and just again beginning to like get myself associated with the sound and the culture of the music. I was still really beginner, and then at that I went to study music and tried to really and still am trying to develop my skills as a musician. But yeah, so it's so hard to answer that question in a way, because there's so many steps.
Yeah.
And I guess there are some really significant ones and other ones which are insignificant, but I guess you're the sum of all the parts of those experiences. So, yeah.
That's true. And you've released several albums as leader and composer as well.
Yeah.
And where do you find your inspiration for composing?
Well, I mean, I feel something I still try and do, and I'm still trying to do it now, is that I try and play the guitar still like it's the beginning. So, a lot of the time when I'm practicing, or when I have free time, when I'm not so much on the road, I'll just sit and play guitar with not so much agenda,
Yeah.
And of course it's a balance, because if you just do that, then there are things in your playing, like things that I want to get better at, which aren't going to improve. But normally it just starts with an idea I like, and for me, my way into jazz was, I guess, like with everyone's, but it's not a perfect line, a straight line. So I was I remember being just always into the idea of writing music which sounded like a song.
Yeah.
Didn't matter how complicated it was, or just had to feel like it's a song, So I just wait till I find an idea I like, which is a song, and then, or I feel like the kind of core element of a song. There has to be like a genuine idea, I really never force it. I mean, the only exception is that sometimes once you find some ideas you really like, then the hardest bit is how to shape them and finish them and arrange them. But I in some ways I'm kind of patient, I just play guitar, and then when there's things I like, I try and do something with it. I never really, like, right now I kind of have a date to do a new record, and it's still like 7 or 8 months away. And I guess I probably need to start pushing myself, like, because I don't like to force it. You know, I like to just let the process happen, and when I'm happy with the music, sometimes you have to push yourself, like force yourself to finish something just because you've got to get the record done. But in general, as much as possible, I just try and, you know, because there's no pressure for me to compose. Like, I don't have to compose. There's no reason to do it other than I love it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I've released several records, and I could continue touring them at the moment, you know, but I enjoy writing new music, and I enjoy that challenge and playing it with different people. And so I try my best just to not, like, with composing, not push myself, you know?
Yeah.
Like, being pushed myself, but not to force it. Whereas practice, I think sometimes it's different. You feel like you have to force some things to get better, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And yesterday we were talking about the Finnish composer Jean Sibelius.
Yeah.
And do you find yourself finding inspiration or things from classical music? You have
absolutely.
a very distinct right hand technique.
Yeah. Well,
Is that something you derive from classical
I think
music?
a little bit. I think what it is that, you know, you just... And sometimes it's strange. Sometimes you kind of don't follow this, but you really just have to follow what you love, you know? And I just love Sibelius. I mean, like, and a lot of other composers as well. But, you know, both, as I said before, both my parents love classical music, especially. You know, they love, you know, they like different kinds of music, but classical music especially, they have a real passion for. And so they've just shared music they like with me, and some things I've got and some things I haven't, you know. And Sibelius is just one of those things that, you know, I remember my mum showing me the first movement of his Seventh Symphony or the last movement of his Fifth Symphony, and just being totally addicted to it. You know, it's just really glorious, wonderful music. Like, it doesn't really get better than that. So I think I guess, you know, I wouldn't say that Sibelius specifically has influenced my composing, but it's just the feeling that, like, the way music like that can move you, you know. And when I'm playing, I want to have that sensation, that like the sensation that it's emotional, you know. And the right hand thing is just about finding different ways to express things, you know. It's just like trying to be an orchestra by yourself, you know. So, but I love Sibelius. I think he's just one of the absolute greats, you know, just so fantastic. And whenever I come to Finland, I always make a real effort to you know, catch up with some Sibelius, you know.
Yeah. And what do you find most rewarding with your job as a musician, artist?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, I think probably it's just the small things in a way, actually, you know, of course you can, you know, the simple answer would be like, you do a great concert, it's really good. And so, you know, sometimes, and this has happened to me a couple of times this year, it doesn't happen that often though, but you'll hear a recording of yourself back and be like, oh wow, that really does sound better than it did like last year, you know. And I've been a couple of times this year where I've heard recordings of myself and thought, oh, that is, you know, that work I put in has got better. Most of the time it's the opposite. Most of the time it's like, oh god, that sounds terrible, you know. But I think the rewarding thing, there are just rewarding moments in all the little things. Like, it's incredibly rewarding to sit next to your friend on a plane and chat, look out the window. Like, that's beautiful. Or to sit on a train and look out the window and chat. Or to try new music in a sound check. Or to share a dinner with friends. You know, those things are all really incredible. So I think, you know, and then inherently applying yourself to a craft like the guitar or music is also rewarding. You know, it's... You know, it gives you a sense of purpose. And I certainly feel like a lot of drive to practice, and I work at music. So that is rewarding in its own self. Just that, without the gigs, and that itself is rewarding, you know.
Yeah. And can you tell us about your daily routine?
Sure. I mean, at the moment, this year especially, and the last few years, but this year especially, you know, there is just no routine because it's so different. What I would say is that the routine aspect is when I'm in London, and, you know, I've been away from London so much this year, but when I am there and I'm free, a normal day will be I have a room I rent where I go and practice, and there's a coffee shop around the corner. And so I try and go there normally in the morning and just play as much guitar as I can, and then I'll take a break and have to do my kind of administrative stuff. So, you know, invoicing and flights and hotels and, you know, scheduling teaching with people, and I try and fit that in the middle of the day and then practice around that, you know. So I do a bit before and you know, trying to be consistent with working at things like repeatedly, you know, and that's something I think I often didn't pay enough attention to, you know, particularly when I first started studying music, is that importance of repetition. So, you know, my daily thing is trying to focus on things repetitively, things, you know, like, because it's hard to improve the things in a short period of time. So, yeah, I have a, you know, book that I look at as much as I can and log what I'm practicing. And yeah, you know, that whenever I'm free, that's what I'm doing. I'm just playing guitar and practicing, you know, and yeah.
Yeah. And we have 6 quick questions for you.
Fantastic.
So choose either one.
Okay.
Small club or festival?
Festival.
Yeah. And if you had to choose a movie or a series?
Movie.
Okay. And spring or fall?
Spring.
City or countryside?
So hard. City.
And coffee or tea?
Coffee.
And the final one, morning or evening?
Evening.
Ah.
That's easy. That's the only one which is easy.
Yeah.
All the other ones were really hard.
Yeah.
And the hardest one was the small club or festival.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, playing in a small club with people around you can be the best feeling.
Yeah.
But, you know, playing at a festival can also be great. So,
Great.
yeah.
So what's next up for Tom Ollendorff?
Well, let's see. I have this year's been quite full on. So the rest of the year is a little more relaxed. I'm going to France in 10 days to do a tour with a piano player who I've been working with a lot this year, Fabrice Tourelle. He wrote this really actually beautiful suite of music called The Suite for Freedom, and I really enjoy playing his music. So I'm going to France a couple of weeks, and then got a short tour, which is the first one I've ever done solo. Doing a solo gig at London Jazz Festival, and then a couple of other solo gigs around that, and maybe do another solo record at the end of the year, depending how the solo shows go and if I feel like I can prepare some stuff. And then just slowly working up to doing a new record, which is happening in June. And yeah, I'm already kind of working on next year's schedule. So, you know, I know there's going to be tours in the spring and the autumn. So just planning that stuff and trying to keep the show on the road, you know, without the wheels falling off and the passenger falling asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, sounds great. Hey man,
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and doing this.
My pleasure. Thank you. Great to play with you guys, and thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And thank you guys for tuning in and watching.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.